Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Privilege Stacking series. Be sure to join the Patreon if you have not already. You will get access to over 100 additional episodes that talk about like social climbing and stuff like that. But today I want to talk about feminine privilege, what it is, how to know that you have it, and why some women are viewed as more feminine while other women are not. So, I used to not actually believe in feminine privilege, but that was because I was coming from a place of feminine privilege. So, there's a difference between being born feminine and then feminine privilege. Anytime we talk about privilege, you have to remember that privilege is all external, okay? So, you are constantly giving other people privilege or you are receiving privilege from other people. Privilege can only be given to you by others, and privilege is based on perception. Privilege is based on stereotypes, and so any privileges you have are actually based on positive stereotypes. Like when people talk about thin privilege, white privilege, pretty privilege, black privilege, it comes from people positively stereotyping you about that particular thing and treating you differently or treating you special or granting you certain opportunities or giving you access to something because of that particular privilege. So, one of the aspects of feminine privilege is social support. So, you may receive greater empathy and greater emotional support. So, for example, the damsel in distress archetype, that's where that comes from. People stereotype feminine women as being kind of this damsel in distress. And so you may have an easier time having people rally around you or help you. Have you ever been walking in public and maybe you drop something and people rush to pick it up? That is a sign that you have feminine privilege. I know that for me, whenever I'm at the airport, you know how they have the overhead compartments? If I can't get my bag out of the overhead compartment because it's heavy, I notice that there's always a man who will get my bag for me. That's an example of feminine privilege. People have a desire to socially support you because they perceive you as being soft and delicate. Oh, that reminds me. Let me start off by pulling up the synonyms of the word feminine because it's very important when you're talking about social climbing and stuff. It's very important to understand what a word actually means. Okay, so I have pulled up synonyms for the word feminine. And if you look, it says it means womanly, womanlike, ladylike, girlish, female, soft, delicate, gentle, tender, graceful, refined, modest. Okay, so a part of why men might rush to hold the door for you or they want to help you carry your suitcases, well, it's because they view you particularly as being soft and delicate. They don't want you to break a nail. They don't want you to trip in your high heels. High heels, the high heel shoe, I can actually use that as an example. The reason that high heels are viewed as feminine is because it literally has a soft and delicate heel. You have to walk a certain way in order to maintain your balance when you're wearing heels. High heel shoes are very delicate. They're much more delicate than Timberland boots, for example. And the material of the high heel, depending on what fabric they're made out of, like a lot of heels are made out of different soft materials like fabrics. Maybe they will have a bow on the heel or something like that. So that's a part of why it's perceived as feminine. So anytime someone goes out of their way to defend you or help you when you fall or something like that, that is actually a sign of feminine privilege. People don't have to help you. They're not obligated to get your suitcase out of the overhead bin at the airport. That's a privilege. So feminine privilege is when people treat you like you're soft, when they treat you like you're tender, when they treat you like you are graceful and refined. Because remember, privilege revolves around how people treat you and how they perceive you. Other people always give you the privilege. This is why I say that being a shitty person, that cancels out your privilege because it's other people who give you the privilege. But one of the main ways that you can tell that you have privilege, though, is how strangers interact with you. That's really what the privilege conversation is about. It's more so about first impressions, how you get treated by strangers, how you get treated upon first meeting someone. That's when you can really get a good grip on whether or not you have a certain privilege. And by the way, there's no such thing as universal privilege. There's no such thing as walking in all of your privileges 24/7, because there's always going to be someone who doesn't like you. There's always going to be someone who hates the fact that you have feminine privilege. And so you're never going to get any privileges 24/7. Another aspect of feminine privilege is that men will want to help you upon first meeting you. So, for example, um, maybe you just started a new job and like a man offers to help you set up your desk, or he offers to carry the heavy items for you, or people will come to your defense if something bad happens. You could see this happening on YouTube. You can see this happening with celebrities. There are certain celebrities where, because of their feminine privilege, people are more likely to come to their defense. And so another aspect of feminine privilege is when people hate on you, you're more likely to be believed, because people subconsciously understand that women are jealous of femininity. Because, obviously, if you're a woman, that's one of the main things that reflects your identity. That's one of the main things that reflects your gender. And so people subconsciously know that women are jealous if they don't have feminine privilege. And so this is why maybe in the workplace, or maybe like in terms of celebrities, sometimes you're more likely to receive empathy by people who value femininity. I would say that if they don't value femininity, you're going to repel them. But I still consider that to be a part of feminine privilege. You repel masculine women from your inner circle. You repel masculine women from your presence because you remind them of what they're not. So, for a lot of you guys who didn't get along with your mothers, um, this could partially be due to your feminine privilege. Maybe your mother was a toxic masculine woman. She's constantly in her masculine energy and you're in your feminine energy. And so you naturally repel her because not only is she not operating in a way that's balanced, but I feel like true femininity does not work well with toxic masculinity. So, feminine women will repel toxic masculine people. This is why sometimes, if you're hyper feminine and you have a lot of feminine privilege, you might get booted out of a certain workplace. It's because energetically, that was a toxic masculine workplace, not even a healthy masculine. No, it was a toxic masculine workplace where you've got all of these people who are just operating in that energy. And so you actually repel that from your space. So I still consider that to actually be a part of feminine privilege. You're repelling the bad type of masculinity. But another thing about this concept of men wanting to help you, like masculine men wanting to help you, this is why we often see pretty feminine women sometimes jumping from relationship to relationship as a coping mechanism. It's nothing to be proud of, but a part of why we see this phenomenon is because when you're a feminine woman, there's always a man in the woodworks who wants to save you. There's always a man in the woodworks who wants to save the damsel in distress. And so this is why sometimes you might think to yourself, why is she always in a relationship? Or, how does she attract all these sugar daddies? Or, how does she meet these guys? Or where do all these guys come from? Even if the guy is not that great of a guy, it's her femininity that is attracting it. But another aspect of feminine privilege and a sign that you have it is you had feminine role models growing up. If you had any sort of feminine role models growing up, you're more likely to have feminine privilege because you had maybe a feminine mother or feminine sisters who taught you beauty hobbies. That's an aspect of femininity. Having good beauty hobbies or hygiene and grooming hobbies, knowing what color and what makeup and stuff looks good on your skin tone. That is what I call advanced femininity. So that's why I call it feminine privilege, because you're operating in your femininity, but it's at a higher level. Another aspect of feminine privilege is creativity. Women create life. If you think about our wombs, if you think about the relationship dynamic, women tend to have more to offer emotionally, so we create emotional life. So, feminine privilege is being able to be emotionally controlled and contained. That's a sign of feminine privilege. You absolutely will receive feminine privilege if you are emotionally regulated. Another thing I forgot to mention too is it's easy for you to attain empathy when it comes to kind of being this damsel in distress. So, for example, you don't have to shout from the mountaintops on YouTube about how much you hate yourself or how bad your life is. You don't have to do that kind of stuff in order to get attention or get empathy because you're already walking in your femininity. And so people already view you as dainty and delicate. And so people naturally want to protect you. People have a desire to protect the feminine. Another sign that you have feminine privilege is because you exhibit feminine traits. You exhibit qualities and personality traits that people associate with femininity, such as kindness, being magnetic, being bubbly, being sweet. I've noticed that a lot of people they associate being sweet with being feminine. And so when it comes to unambiguous black women in particular, I've noticed that a lot of black women will complain, like, I'm not seen as feminine, I'm not perceived as feminine. Well, being sweet and being like kind and like bubbly and stuff and upbeat, that is associated with femininity. But I would say, above all else, being perceived as a sweet girl, that's definitely going to increase your feminine privilege. And I'm not saying you have to be sweet towards men, but I am very sweet towards women. I'm very sweet towards my subscribers. I'm very sweet towards children. I'm very sweet towards animals. So I've noticed that even if I have my bitchy moments, I'm still perceived as having more of a feminine personality. And it's because of that sweetness. And I think a lot of people confuse being sweet with being a doormat, but that just means that they don't know the definition of words. Obviously, being sweet in terms of personality, it just means that you are pleasing, you are delightful. People feel good when they're in your presence, they feel uplifted. A lot of people tell me that I make them feel good. A lot of people tell me that they feel very uplifted when they're in my presence. Some people tell me that they feel calm and peaceful in my presence. All of those things are associated actually with feminine energy, being nurturing, having these nurturing personality traits, having a lot of empathy. Another aspect of feminine privilege, you operate based on your intuition. Intuition is associated with femininity. So, for example, you know what you want, you are easily guided towards your goals. There's almost like this divinity that comes with your personality. So, you know how to lean into your emotions in a healthy way. You have a healthy relationship with your emotions. You know how to express a wide variety of emotions while still remaining sweet and delightful and pleasant. I would say that's an aspect of feminine privilege because, for the most part, most people don't want to harm a good person. And if they do, you're going to have people come to your defense because they know, hey, Sarah is really sweet. Like, she's very unproblematic. She doesn't have issues with random people. Another aspect of feminine privilege is that when it comes to interactions with men, you are visible. They treat you more like a lady when they first meet you. Now, as far as how they behave long term, you cannot control that. But upon first meeting a man, it doesn't have to be romantic, just in general. The interaction with you is going to be different. So, for example, I have literally seen men, restaurant workers and stuff, where maybe one woman will come up to the counter and he will talk to her normally. And then a more feminine woman, or a woman who is perceived as having feminine privilege, she will walk up to the counter and suddenly he starts speaking in a softer voice, or he wants to cater to her needs. So if you have feminine privilege, you're more likely to attract the princess treatment. Princess treatment is something where you can tell the difference when somebody first meets you. And by the way, feminine privilege actually works in female friendships as well because you will attract more women who value femininity. In fact, they might compliment something feminine about your appearance. So, feminine privilege, it's a combination of having a feminine appearance, having personality traits that are associated with femininity, and even having the body language or the mannerisms that are also associated with femininity. All of those things increase your feminine privilege. So, for example, the way that you walk, the way you walk down the street, the way you like move your body naturally, that adds to feminine privilege. Have you ever seen a girl where she walks and the wind blows in her hair? Because she knows how to position her body so that she can look as feminine as possible when she's walking down the street. All of those mannerisms and like the body language and those personality traits, those things add to feminine privilege. Another aspect of feminine privilege is social acceptance of your vulnerability. So when you're feminine, you're going to find it easier to express vulnerability and seek emotional support because you're already an emotionally regulated person. You're not an angry person, you're an emotionally regulated person. I've noticed that people associate anger with masculinity and then they associate like peace with femininity. And I know that some people will try to use those talking points to gaslight you, but I'm just saying that if you are one of those people that is known to constantly pop off at the mouth, like if you're cussing people out all the time, throwing drinks on people and stuff, that's going to cancel out your feminine privilege because one of the main stereotypes about femininity is vulnerability. It's emotional vulnerability. Vulnerability is actually a strength. It actually takes a lot of courage to be emotionally vulnerable and remain emotionally regulated. So I think that some women they get it wrong because they're trying to express their emotions, but then they express their vulnerability via anger. They will use anger as their channel. And I see this a lot with Black women. They're trying to express their anger or their hurt at colorism or racism or whatever. But unfortunately, if you express that stuff in an angry way, like with yelling, cursing, with throwing things, people are not going to give you that feminine privilege. So I would say if you want feminine privilege, you have to be very mindful and very emotionally regulated in the way that you speak. Because if you're coming off as this chaotic, loud, rowdy, combative type of person, people are not going to receive it well. So, just in terms of like personal branding. So, for example, I use feminine privilege when it comes to my YouTube channel. Anytime a person disagrees with me, or if they pop off at the mouth or something, or they make like troll videos against me, when I come back at them, I don't curse them out. You've never seen me like directly try to scream and shout and throw stuff at my laptop. There are some content creators where you can hear them throwing stuff. I've actually made videos about it before. But when you do stuff like that, it cancels out your feminine privilege. So remember, privilege is all about perception because privilege is external. On this channel, I talk about both internal validation and external validation. But another sign that you may have feminine privilege is you have access to feminine support groups. So, for example, your mother, your sister, a women's group, women's Bible study, I don't know, it could be a women's manifestation group on Facebook. You have access to a lot of feminine energy all around you. And so you know how to cultivate it. I've noticed that women, we feed off of each other, women nurture each other. So if you've got a lot of feminine women around you, you're definitely operating in feminine privilege. This is why I talk about the value of female friendships. So even though you want to get rid of the toxic women, yes, you should get rid of them, but you should also invest in finding good, positive, feminine women so that you guys can kind of like build on each other's energy. Because remember, there are going to be some people who drain your energy, and then there are going to be people who kind of like give energy to you. So they build you up. So this is why I say, even though you want to get rid of the bad friends, you still want to have good, positive women in your life. This could be a mentor, this could be a teacher, it could be a professor, a coach, a sister, a cousin, a friend, anybody. Anybody who gives you positive like vibes, anyone who makes you feel more feminine in their presence, that is something that will increase your feminine privilege. Another sign that you have feminine privilege is that you are not insecure about being perceived as masculine. I've noticed that some women who don't have feminine privilege are insecure about being tall or being muscular or being overweight. For example, I will use height. I'm 5'9", okay? I have never in my life heard of a woman being insecure about being tall unless she is overweight or she's considered ugly. That's it. Because the tall, feminine, pretty women are models and athletes. So I've noticed that usually women who have more insecurities about being perceived as masculine, they have those insecurities because they don't have feminine privilege. Another aspect of feminine privilege is you get to be carefree and express your femininity however you want. So one of the critiques that people give to my channel is like, "Oh, you're using certain rappers or like these women from the ghetto, you're using those women on your YouTube channel. Those women are not feminine." I'm thinking, "What are you talking about? Femininity is not a monolith. If you have feminine privilege, you're going to be feminine regardless, whether you're poor, rich, black, white, tall, short, fat, skinny. Only the women who don't have feminine privilege worry about the small stuff like that. I still feel feminine even if I'm a little bit chunky. I still feel feminine when I have on no makeup. I still feel feminine when I have no weave on. So if there is something that can cause your feminine privilege to go away, or like if there's something that makes you feel completely unfeminine to the point where now you feel masculine, that means you don't have feminine privilege. Because I know for me, for example, with being tall, I love being tall. Being tall has gotten me modeling contracts. It has got me sports opportunities. For those of you who like tall men, being a tall woman, I've attracted tall men who love my height and they love, that we will have tall kids. I mean, I'm child free, but you know what I mean. Like I've had people compliment me. So that's a sign of feminine privilege, though. It's because I have feminine privilege. If you do not have feminine privilege, or if you're not perceived as feminine, or you don't tap into your femininity at all, you're going to be more insecure about certain things making you look masculine, like your skin tone, your hair, like I still feel feminine if I have short hair. I do not have, there is no clothing or beauty item, there is no weight, there is no makeup item that can take away my femininity. Well, that's because I'm speaking from a place of feminine privilege. So that's another very solid sign that you have feminine privilege. You still feel feminine when you wake up in the morning. You feel feminine in your natural state. You feel feminine no matter what body size you are. Now, you may not feel as feminine, like if you're overweight or something, but overall, you definitely don't feel masculine. So I would say that like if there's any trigger, if you have any anti-femininity triggers, that's a sign that maybe you want to build up your feminine privilege more so that no matter what your weight is, you still feel inherently feminine. Another way to increase your feminine privilege is by looking at the synonyms for the word feminine and then incorporating that stuff into your wardrobe. So for example, one of the synonyms for feminine was the word soft. So this is why soft hair is associated with femininity. This is why people who have soft hair, whether it's real or fake, they may be more likely to attain feminine privilege, or it may increase their feminine perception. It's because the word soft is literally a synonym for the word feminine. And it doesn't have to just be your hair. It could be your lips, having soft lips. That is associated with femininity because of the softness. I've never heard anyone say that dry, crusty lips are feminine. So, dry, crusty hair, dry, crusty lips, dry, crusty skin. No. Usually it's soft hair, soft skin, soft lips. Those things are associated with femininity. Privilege is all about perception. Perception is often based on stereotypes. So you guys have to remember whenever I'm talking about privilege, I am directly speaking on how other people perceive you. So this is external. So I would say if you struggle with your internal validation and your internal self-esteem, don't worry about privilege and privilege stacking right now, because you have to have a solid foundation within yourself before you start seeking like kind of these external micro validations. And the reason that some women have kind of like this roller coaster feeling with their self-esteem, it's because they don't have that internal locus of control. They're relying solely on external privileges. They're relying solely on external validation. And so this is why you see women in the red pill movement. It's because they don't have the internal, they don't know how to validate their own femininity. They need a man to validate it. They have male centered femininity or red pill centered femininity. And so they can't just feel feminine on their own. They can't feel feminine without makeup. Their femininity is centered around makeup. You take the makeup away, she feels like a man now. So that's a good question to ask yourself. What is my femininity based on? What is my feminine identity? Another aspect of feminine privilege is that people perceive you as someone who is good at self care. They perceive you as someone who is put together. So maybe your hair's on point, your nails are on point, your emotions are on point, your body's on point, and people can tell, yeah, you have feminine privilege. Another sign of feminine privilege is that other women who value femininity, they look up to you. Does your little sister look up to you? Do other women copy you? Copy your outfits, copy your makeup? Do they copy your mannerisms and your personality or your style of content? Do they copy maybe your color scheme for your business? They copy your colors for your outfit? It's because you have the feminine privilege. So you become kind of like this teacher of femininity without even trying to. And I do believe that there's a such thing as feminine privilege in terms of looks, feminine privilege in terms of personality, and feminine privilege in terms of mannerisms. So I've noticed when I think of feminine privilege in terms of mannerisms, I'm thinking of a lot of like women in the Asian communities, kind of like the facial expressions they make, some of the hand gestures that they do and stuff. Have you ever noticed that like with a lot of Asian girls, I've noticed that femininity, like I've met a lot of Asian women who highly value femininity, but have you ever noticed how no matter what pose they're doing in a lot of their pictures, they still look feminine? They don't look like a try hard. Um they don't look like they're trying to do these crazy duck lips. And I feel like duck lips, that's a good example of trying to force a feminine mannerism. Why do women do duck lips? Well, it's because they're associating full, soft lips with femininity. And so they're trying to do this performative thing where they're making a crazy face in hopes that they will appear more feminine. Another word that I associate with femininity is the word dainty. So if there is anything about your looks, your personality, or your mannerisms that may be perceived as dainty, that could actually increase your feminine privilege. So, in my opinion, short nails, not long nails, short nails increase my feminine privilege, in my opinion. Because my cultural background, like in my background, nobody had long acrylic nails. I was never exposed to that. I don't I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't wear them. I like my nails to be short and dainty and just natural. Short, dainty and cute and simple. So, is there any aspect of your appearance or your personality or your hobbies? So for example, I consider beadwork, like making jewelry and stuff, I consider that to be a hobby that people associate with daintiness because you're dealing with a lot of teeny tiny small items like small beads, small wires. You're creating something sparkly and pretty and beautiful to adorn yourself. That is associated with femininity. I've also noticed that there is a gentleness in women who have feminine privilege. There is a gentleness in their interactions with others that kind of enhances their feminine privilege because let's say you're at the store and some woman just starts cursing you out. And then you don't yell back or anything, you just gently respond and you're just very calm. People are going to take your side because you have the feminine privilege in that scenario. She looks like the aggressor. People associate a lot of yelling and stuff with like toxic masculine. And by the way, these are not rules. I don't want you guys to think like, "Oh, you have to follow any of these rules." No. I'm just talking about perception because privilege is really based on perception. But that tip has worked for me so many times, just remaining calm whenever somebody else gets extremely angry. And then, people are going to take my side. Some other aspects of feminine privilege are you're good at nurturing You're good at being compassionate. You're very receptive. You're good at receiving. Have you ever met anybody that's really good at receiving gifts? I know that that's one of my strengths. I'm very good at receiving. I'm great at receiving gifts. I've been gifted a MacBook before. I've been gifted a BMW before. I've been gifted gold jewelry, diamonds. I'm very good at receiving. That's actually one of my affirmations. I am good at receiving. People love giving me things. Maybe you're good at expressing your feelings in a way that resonates with others. Have you ever met a woman who she will be expressing her emotions and she may be correct in what she's saying, but nobody relates to her? She's not relatable. Nobody cares, basically, about how she feels. Why? Have you ever wondered why that is? Well, it's because she doesn't have feminine privilege. A part of feminine privilege in terms of personality is you know how to express your feelings in a way in which others actually listen to you. Other people will bend backwards and move mountains for you because you're a good communicator. You're a good communicator. You're very in tune with your emotions. You're very intuitive, so you know the right timing. You know when to speak on certain things, when not to. You know when to move in silence, how to move in silence. It's very simple. You just be silent. But there are some women who are not good at that. They're not good at practicing expressing their emotions. They don't know how to be vulnerable and speak in a calm tone while they're being vulnerable. They're too scared of other people seeing their vulnerabilities. Usually it's because they have a wounded feminine, they have kind of like this wounded feminine personality. And so maybe in the past, maybe they didn't have feminine role models. Maybe their mother was masculine and maybe their own mother would attack them verbally whenever they showed emotions. And so they just kind of, they became almost like this sociopath. And so then it makes it hard for them to relate to other people. It makes it hard for others to connect with them. So a part of feminine privilege is when it's easy for other people of all backgrounds, all races, all genders to connect with you. You're magnetic. That's a part of femininity, being magnetic. That is feminine privilege right there, being magnetic. You always get what you want. Have you ever met a girl, like maybe in high school or something? Have you ever come across a girl who always gets what she wants? Even if she starts off like maybe she wasn't good at sports, but then she practices soccer for a couple months. Next thing you know, she's on varsity. And then she becomes the class president and the prom queen. She has an aspect of feminine privilege. She's intuitive. She's grounded, she's emotionally regulated, and she sets boundaries. I actually believe that a big part of feminine privilege is having boundaries, being good at setting boundaries. I've noticed that some women, they only set boundaries with black men. They don't set boundaries with white men. Or, you only set boundaries with family members, but you don't set boundaries with your friend. So your femininity can actually be attacked or it can be drained from you because you're not setting boundaries around it. You're not guarding it. So a part of feminine privilege is being able to set boundaries around your emotions, set boundaries around your expressions and your mannerisms, set boundaries around your goals, and always listening to your intuition, not allowing people to talk you down and try to convince you that you're at the bottom or nobody wants you or that somebody else is above you. A part of being feminine and having feminine privilege is setting strong emotional boundaries and enforcing them gently. So no, you don't have to go cuss people out and all this shit. No, you can just move in silence. You can just cut them off. You can just block them. You can just fall back. You don't have to make everything a big dramatic show. That's feminine privilege because you're maintaining your dignity. One of the really big aspects I've noticed of feminine privilege is a woman who still maintains her dignity and she still maintains her pedestal no matter what her background is, no matter what her race is, no matter how sexy or modest she wants to be. That's feminine privilege. You don't have to be a monolith. You don't have to do this performative thing. I can always tell the difference between performative femininity versus inherent femininity. So women who make comments like, oh, so-and-so person is not feminine because they're from the ghetto. It's like, you don't understand femininity. Femininity doesn't really have anything to do with socioeconomics. There are people from third world countries who are still feminine. You can be feminine and still be sexy if you want. You can be feminine and be goth. You can be feminine and be professional. But only women with feminine privilege understand that. So if you don't have feminine privilege, you're going to be looking at femininity from like this black and white perspective, like, oh, the only way to be feminine is to be a trad wife. Well, that would only come from somebody who doesn't have feminine privilege, because they're taking these religious mindsets, or they're just taking these traditional mindsets, and then they're saying that's what femininity is. No, that's what femininity has to be for you, because you don't have feminine privilege. So if you don't become a trad wife, you will be viewed as masculine. I won't, because I have feminine privilege. I can still be feminine and wear a short skirt, a long skirt, a sexy outfit, a modest outfit. By the way, if you're enjoying this episode, be sure to check out my Dark Femininity course. It is linked in the description. But I want to talk about dark femininity as well, because I do feel like dark femininity balances out light femininity. So I talked about nurturing and stuff like that, and compassion and empathy, but I actually feel like a big part of feminine privilege is being able to embrace dark femininity. So I've noticed that women who don't have feminine privilege, they see dark feminine women as being masculine. And it's like, no, she's not masculine. She's literally just tapping into a different type of femininity. So for example, if we look at some of the rappers who are very sexy, Meg Thee Stallion, Ice Spice, you mean to tell me that those women are somehow masculine? No, they still look feminine. I think that they still act feminine. Their clothing is still feminine. They're just tapping more so into dark femininity, because they're tapping into seduction. That's dark femininity, seduction. Kind of the siren, tapping into a little bit of the bad girl energy. That's dark femininity. So I've noticed that women who don't have feminine privilege, they view dark femininity as masculine. And it's like, no, that's not masculine. It's just dark femininity. It's the shadow side of being feminine. Because everything is not all cupcakes and rainbows and lollipops. There are some scenarios where light femininity will be more powerful, and then there are other scenarios where dark femininity will be more powerful. So I've noticed that when it comes to a lot of black women, I noticed a lot of black women are good at practicing dark femininity, or maybe they're more familiar with dark femininity, but they're not familiar with light femininity, which is the nurturing, the intuition, the compassion, being receptive, kind of being pure-hearted, having good intentions. Because dark femininity is more like you're powerful, almost like this dominatrix energy. So being able to embody any type of femininity, that is feminine privilege. You have a fluid femininity. That is a huge feminine privilege. You can look feminine with a red lipstick. You look feminine with black lipstick. You look feminine with a corset. You look feminine in a button-up shirt. No matter what you do, your femininity never goes away. That's feminine privilege. Another aspect of dark femininity is alchemy. So it's knowing how to turn something bad into something good. So I practice this all the time. Anytime somebody calls me a name, I will take on that name and make it a part of my brand, and make money off of it. Taylor Swift is another good example. She did this. People were calling her a snake. She started an entire merch line of stuff that had snakes on it. She started getting a bad reputation in Hollywood. She made a whole album. I think her whole album was called Bad Reputation. So that's alchemy. That's a part of dark femininity. And that's a sign that you have feminine privilege. If you can operate in dark femininity without being perceived as masculine, you have feminine privilege. So if you can be extremely seductive and sexy without being perceived as masculine, you have feminine privilege. So I've noticed that some women, they try to shame you because they're actually jealous of the fact that you get to be free. They're jealous that you can show your boobs or whatever and still be perceived as feminine and not be perceived as masculine and trashy. They're jealous because they can't do that. So I want to talk a little bit about how to unleash more of your feminine energy, whether it's light femininity or dark femininity. So, if you want to get into your dark feminine, femme fatale, mogul era, you can spend 20 minutes planning. Spend 20 minutes planning for the next day. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to clean? Are you going to cook? Are you going to exercise? You can start doing like Pilates, yoga. I consider that to be more like you're practicing light femininity because you're being intuitive when it comes to yoga. You're really listening to your body and stuff. So that's another way to tap into femininity or feminine privilege. Another thing you can do is increase your self-respect. Have higher self-respect. Accept who you are. Be sure of who you are and like what your values are. You can trust your intuition. You can begin nurturing your intuition. So some of the ways that I nurture my intuition, I love to meditate. I like to read. I love to go on nature walks. I go on a nature walk almost every single day. I love to drink alkaline water and do certain things to decalcify my pineal gland. Those are some of the ways that I kind of nurture my femininity. Self-care, that's a way that I nurture like my physical femininity. I want my skin to be soft. So yeah, as far as ways to embrace feminine energy, you can pause and reflect. You can ground yourself. You can connect with your emotions. What are you feeling and why? How does the femininity conversation make you feel? And why do you feel that way? You can practice intuitive listening. So listen to the nudges from within yourself. Listen to what your desires are. Listen to what your emotions are telling you. So, for example, I have a giant piece of cake in my refrigerator right now. Well, I'm not at home right now, but I have a giant piece of cake in my parents' refrigerator. I could eat the whole entire thing, but that's not going to make me feel good emotionally afterwards or physically, to be honest. So that's my intuition telling me, hey, I don't need to eat a gigantic piece of cake. I can eat a couple of bites if I want. That's actually a part of feminine privilege. It's having increased intuition, increased creativity. Okay, sorry, I just had to pause it really quick so I could drink some of my tea. So drinking tea, that's actually one of the ways that I tap into my femininity and increase my feminine privilege because did you know that there are certain herbs that help balance your hormones? There are certain herbs that help stimulate collagen in your body. And so that increases your feminine privilege because it's literally making your body look more feminine. It's making your body operate properly. I love studying like essential oils and what tea does what to my body. So right now I'm actually drinking butterfly pea flower tea. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. But it basically helps to naturally balance your hormones. It helps your body to stimulate collagen within itself. So that's one of my things that I do to increase my feminine privilege. I also love to drink out of really cute cups. So you know how they have like the cute mugs? Like right now I'm drinking my tea out of a pink mug. Oh, be sure to get my exotical mug. It should be linked in the description. It should be showing up right below this YouTube video. But I like to collect little feminine items, like little sparkly pens or decorative pencils and stationery. I love collecting feminine items because it reminds me that I'm a woman. It reminds me of my feminine privilege. It reminds me that femininity has no bounds, it has no limits. You can be as feminine as you want to be, you can be as pretty as you want to be, you can be as healthy as you want to be. You can express your beauty in so many different ways. And that's another aspect of building your feminine privilege. It is finding many different ways to express your beauty. So, a part of why I have a fluid beauty standard is because having a whole bunch of different hair colors that I do and stuff, that helps me increase my feminine privilege because it's like, wow, I look pretty in 10 different hair colors. Another thing that I do when it comes to increasing my feminine privilege is cycle syncing. So When I am on my period, I might chill out a little bit on content. I try to be intentional about resting. So now I have moved to where I'm only allowing myself to upload up to 2 videos a day, max, for now. Even though I really could upload like 6 videos a day because I have so much energy, but I'm trying to practice resting more and like maybe working on other projects as well. This is not the only thing that I do in terms of my creativity. I also have like a Patreon and stuff. So, yeah, just kind of listening to my body, doing cycle syncing. I love dabbling in different spiritual knowledge or just attaining knowledge in general, kind of helping me to sharpen my intuition. Knowledge helps me sharpen my intuition. Just saying. So, yeah, I love learning about all the different signs, all the different personality types. What are the pros and cons of each one? But I try to make it as self focused as possible. So, for example, what is my personality type? What is my body type? Okay, so I'm an ENTJ. I'm an hourglass body type or body shape. I'm a soft dramatic in terms of the Kibbe body system. So that means I have long legs, long arms, long neck. So all of those things increase your feminine privilege. What's your body type? What is your body shape? What eyeshadow style looks good on you? Do you have high visual weight or low visual weight to your face? Because I know that once I learned that, that really helped me understand why I didn't like certain makeup looks. Because some makeup looks are made for high visual weight faces, like the harsh smoky eye with the winged liner and kind of like the Meg Thee Stallion style makeup. She has a higher visual weight face than I do. So yeah, it's gonna look good on her face, but I have low visual weight. So that's why I've always been attracted to kind of the Asian makeup styles or no makeup because I just feel like it looks better with the visual weight of my face. All of that knowledge, that increases my feminine privilege because when it's time to go to an event where I want to show off my femininity, where my feminine privilege matters, at a formal event, at a wedding, I don't know, it could be anywhere. I want to make sure that all of the feminine decisions I'm making are increasing my femininity and increasing my feminine privilege and making it so that I'm treated more like a princess. What colors look best on your skin tone? Do you have neutral undertones, warm undertones, cool undertones? I have neutral undertones. My undertones are slightly cool, but they're neutral. So once I learned that, it helped me to understand so many different things. Like, oh, wow, that's why that makeup didn't look right. Or, that's why that color didn't look perfect on me. So increasing your feminine knowledge, that will help you as well to operate in your femininity and kind of increase your feminine privilege. Something else you can do is explore your creative side. So creativity is definitely a part of femininity. Women create life. So finding creative outlets, whether it's painting or doing artwork. I have a friend and she literally, you know how you can buy those paintings from like TJ Maxx and Marshalls? She creates her own. She doesn't buy any paintings. She goes out and she will get a blank canvas and she will get a whole bunch of pink paint because her apartment was like pink. So she got a blank canvas and she got like pink glittery paints and stuff and she just painted her own stuff and hung it up around her apartment. That is feminine privilege. She used her femininity to benefit her personal life. She used her femininity to show off her uniqueness. Nobody else in the world has those paintings in their apartment. Another thing that I like to do is reading books that increase my femininity. So, The Art of Seduction. There are so many books. If you join my members page or my Patreon page, I am probably going to create some sort of like library or something to where all of us can be like reading certain books. But I love to study femininity. What are the different types of femininity? How many different types of femininity are you familiar with? Because the more types of femininity you're familiar with, the higher your feminine privilege is. The women who say stuff like, oh, Ice Spice is not feminine, she's only saying that because she does not have feminine privilege. So she's never been exposed to Ice Spice's femininity type. She can't rock that femininity type herself, or she's never been exposed to that herself. Or maybe she comes from a conservative, controlling background to where the only way you can be feminine is if you're a nun or a trad wife. She has limiting beliefs around femininity. But a part of feminine privilege is knowing all of the different diverse types of femininity. There's the femme fatale, there's the siren. What kind of personality does a femme fatale have? I'm thinking of like Megan Fox or like Regina George. I'm thinking of kind of this siren archetype, this unbothered, I don't give an F, I'm the queen bee, femme fatale type of thing. There's the diva. Like what feminine symbols do you have in your mind? How many feminine symbols do you have in your mind? Are there certain colors or animals or creatures that you associate with femininity? Another thing that I do is I like to study styling, like fashion styling, face types. So I recently found this video where it was talking about your animal face type and like what kind of makeup looks good on you. So apparently mine was the fish type. And then in the video they were saying how if you have that type of beauty, people might associate you with looking like a mermaid. I was like, "Oh my god. I've loved mermaids forever and I've been talking about mermaids, and I've always said that people would tell me I look like a mermaid." Well, it's because in the Asian community they have these different like makeup styles and stuff. They're very creative. I love studying different cultures' takes on femininity as well. I practice multicultural femininity. Do you? I don't believe in feminine hierarchies. Do you? I don't believe that one skin tone is less feminine than another. Do you? I mean, there really is no wrong answer, but I'm just saying I prefer to be as open-minded as possible because it gives me a lot more freedom and it allows me to curate my own version of feminine privilege that nobody else has. The trad wife, that archetype, that feminine archetype, that's just one archetype. I don't want to only be stuck to one type of femininity. I like to be fluid with my femininity. So one day I might look like Betty Boop. The next day I might look like Beyonce. The day after that I might look like a mermaid. That's feminine privilege. It's being able to go from one type of femininity to another type in terms of looks. It's being able to slide back and forth from dark femininity to light femininity. One of the aspects of the femme fatale is she does not settle for less. She has strong boundaries and she's very seductive. I also love to do feminine affirmations. So, I'm very feminine. I am inherently feminine. Other people notice my femininity. I'm the girliest girl you've ever met. So you can do your affirmations and start developing a feminine mindset. You can also figure out what mannerisms and hand gestures and sitting positions work well for your body. Do you look good with your legs crossed? Do you look good sitting with your legs closed together? Do you look good sitting with your legs in like a figure four? Knowing like the positioning of your body and what poses look good on you, what silhouette looks good on you. Do you look good in long lines? I'm a soft dramatic, so I'm tall. I look very good in long lines. Any sort of blazer, I've also noticed that any blazer, no matter what shape, no matter how long or short it is, any sort of blazer is going to look good on me. I only know that because I've studied different forms of femininity because I love myself. And I love my femininity. And so I want to express it because it's fun. Does your apartment or your living area or your kitchen, do those things express your femininity? Because that can add to your feminine privilege as well. Do you have a cute interior for your car? Or like cute little decorations or stickers on your bumper? Do you have cute stickers on your laptop or on your water bottle? I used to collect stickers. I used to collect stickers in my 20s. I used to collect stickers. I used to collect pink chopsticks. I know it's like really random, but I would collect like different pastel colored chopsticks. So like pink and green and yellow and like all these really bright girly colors because whenever I'm eating Asian food, I like to have cute girly chopsticks. That's just a random feminine quirk about me. So what are your feminine quirks? Do you like little hair clips? I love butterfly clips. It's so funny because I used to wear my hair to work. I would wear it like natural. So my hair is like a type 3. So I wear it in like these natural curls slash waves. And I used to do a half up, half down with a butterfly clip at the top because I feel like that's very cute. You know, it's very 90s looking almost. So I don't know. Nobody else was doing it at that time. And one of my coworkers, next thing I know, she's rocking her hair. I didn't even know she had natural curly hair because she was white. I didn't know her hair was naturally wavy. So the next day, she comes in with her hair. She had like type 2 hair. It was wavy, half up, half down with a butterfly clip. So that's a sign that I have feminine privilege because other women noticed my femininity. They were inspired by me. I was her feminine muse. And by the way, I support that. You know, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I love complimenting other women's femininity and giving them credit and learning from them. So yeah, she came in with her butterfly clip and her hair half up, half down. So, do you have any unique feminine quirks? Do you like nail stickers? I love nail stickers, nail gems, nail accessories. Even though my nails are short, I love to paint my nails and paint my toes. I don't go to the nail salon very often. I bought the stuff so I could do it at home. So I have like a gel manicure kit, I have like the nail files and stuff. That's a part of my beauty hobbies. And your beauty hobbies increase your feminine privilege because you're going to look more feminine with like your nails and toes done and stuff. So I've noticed that some women they focus only on the external femininity or they focus on male centered femininity, but they don't focus on the internal version of femininity, which is your personality or even like your mannerisms outside of the male gaze, outside of seduction, because seduction has to do with like men. Well, you can use seduction in other areas though, like sales is technically a form of seduction. Do you know how to sell stuff? Because if so, where's your business? Start a business. You can do crocheting, you can do knitting, you can sell like I don't know, sex toys, whatever, wigs. I've seen women sell so many different things. So all of those things are an aspect of feminine privilege. You want to have aspirational femininity, yet also relatable femininity. That's feminine privilege. Having fluid femininity, that's feminine privilege. Having unique femininity. Nobody can wear a dress like you. Nobody can style their hair like you. I love hairstyling. I almost so when I was like 18, 19, I almost went to school in between high school and college. I almost went to school so I could do like hair and makeup and all that stuff. Because I've been studying femininity just naturally. I've always had an inclination for it for all things feminine since I was a child. But that's also because I had a lot of feminine role models. It wasn't just my mom and my grandmother. I also had like my sister and like all of my female cousins. And then I was also raised in the church, in a mega church. So I had dozens of other women directly like mentoring me. Women of all racial backgrounds, all ages. And so that helped to really expand my view of femininity. And it helped me to get better at expressing my femininity. Because I had other women around me saying, "Oh, Exoticals United, hot pink looks really good on you. Oh, purple eyeshadow looks really pretty on you. Oh, you look really good with lipstick on. Oh, you look good with bangs." These are things that I knew from the time I was a teenager because a part of feminine privilege is having other women who can give you feedback. I mean, privilege really is just feedback from society. That's what privilege really is. You're receiving a positive feedback loop. Another part of the feminine mindset that I like to take on is I don't chase, I attract. So I attract subscribers, I attract money, I attract the treatment that I want. I don't have to argue back and forth about whether or not I'm a preference of somebody. I don't have to compare myself. or my femininity to another woman's femininity, because nobody can do it like me. And nobody can do it like you, because you are your own unique person with your own memories and experiences. No two people have the same personality. So you don't have the same personal reality as another woman, so there's no need for you to like think, "Oh, well she's just more feminine and I'm a loser compared to her." No. You don't even have to think that way. But another aspect of building feminine privilege is using mystery to your advantage. You can move in silence. Nobody in my real life knows what this channel is. Well, except my boyfriend, because he has to. But other than that, nobody knows. I move in silence. Nobody knows how much money I have or don't have. Nobody knows the vacations I'm going on. I don't have to share anything and everything on social media, especially if I'm not getting paid, because I don't have to do this performative femininity thing. Um, but when it comes to seduction, I love using seduction to my advantage, like when it comes to feminine privilege. So I like to use confidence, mystery, flirting, active listening, compliments, eye contact. I like dressing well, playfulness. I'm a very playful type of person. So think of Marilyn Monroe, how she's super seductive looking, very sexy looking, but she's also playful. I love to use that playful energy. It enhances my feminine privilege. Touch. I like to use that to my advantage. My intelligence. That's a form of seduction that can be used at my leisure if I want to. So there are so many fun and creative ways that you can build up your own feminine privilege by tapping into your femininity. Something else I love to do is I love tapping into the different seasonal aspects of femininity. So for example, I don't know, if you're dating, if you've always wanted to have a summer fling, you're grown. You can do whatever you want. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I know for me, I don't believe in like casual sex. I don't practice casual sex. But I do like seasonal femininity in the sense that maybe I'll go blonde for the summer, or maybe I will wear a red lipstick because it's Christmas time. Maybe I will wear pastel colors in the spring. I love incorporating the seasons of nature into my fashion and my makeup. I love looking like a spring goddess. I love looking like a femme fatale during New Year's, or looking very romantic on Valentine's Day, doing big romantic curls, whether I'm with a man or not. So yeah, I also love using feminine charm. I feel like that's another really big one for building feminine privilege. Learning how to be charming. A really big part of being charming is just being emotionally controlled and knowing how to laugh at yourself. Knowing how to laugh at yourself. It's letting people think what they want about you. Maybe even making fun of yourself. That's charming. A lot of women are very stiff. They're too scared of being laughed at. They literally, did you know there's a fear? I forgot what it's called. There's like a phobia of being laughed at. I feel like a lot of women with inferiority complexes, they have a fear of being laughed at. They have a fear of being made fun of. And so they are perfectionists. Perfectionism kills femininity. Perfectionism kills feminine privilege. Like, if my hair is a little bit frizzy, I will use that to my advantage. I've used my hair to flirt. Like I'm dead ass. I've used my hair frizz to flirt. Like when I went running, I was talking to a guy. He ended up being my boyfriend. We were running, and my hair, it was in a high ponytail. I had on clip-ins, and he was like, "Oh, there's something in your hair." And then I tried to wipe it out, and he was like, "Oh, it's still there." And then I was like, "Oh, it's probably a track." And then I just kind of laughed at it, and I was like, kind of giving him the flirty, demure, like batting eyelashes look. I was like, "Yeah, it's probably a track." And he didn't say, "Oh, you have on a track? Oh my God." No, he didn't react like that. He was just like, "I'm familiar with tracks." And then we started a whole conversation. Then I had a whole playful conversation with him about my tracks. So no, having a fear of being laughed at, having a fear of your flaws being seen, that kills your femininity. It kills your charm. Because If I would have lied or something, or like, oh my God, it's none of your business. Why are you looking at it? That's not as charming or fun, you know? That could make people feel like they have to walk on eggshells, like, oh shit, I can't say anything. But it's like, no, I embrace every aspect of myself. So if something is not perfect, if my track is showing, or if it got sweated out, or you can kind of see the difference between the frizz levels, oh well, I'm still feminine, bitch. I still have feminine privilege. So a part of charm is actually using your flaws to flirt, or using your flaws as a part of what makes you beautiful. I never even wore edge control until, I don't know, until probably my late 20s. I didn't even know what edge control was. So, yeah, I have learned over the years to just embrace mishaps and mess ups. And, you know, if I have a wardrobe malfunction, I just fix it and I keep going. That's a part of feminine privilege in terms of your spirit and your personality. It's that charm, it's being able to show vulnerability. Another aspect of feminine privilege is being able to create a fantasy. This is what Shira Seven talks about a lot. She talks about this in terms of the male gaze, creating a fantasy or playing into a fantasy. So I like to use it. I've used it for the male gaze, but I also like to use fantasy to heal my inner child. So guess what? If I want to dress like a princess today, I'm going to dress like a princess. I don't care if I'm going to the grocery store. If I want to dress like a princess and wear a cute little pink skirt and a little pink corset and a sparkly headband, I'm going to wear that outfit to the grocery store. So I like to create a fantasy not just for the male gaze, but also for myself as well. Dressing for myself, playing dress up by myself, dressing up before I go out, creating a fantasy. Because then when I look in the mirror, I'm reminding myself what a princess I am. When I look in the mirror, I see a pretty pink princess. That's a part of feminine privilege. I'm not intimidated by the color pink. I'm not intimidated by people looking at me. I've noticed a lot of women, they have the fear of being seen. Fear of being seen, it comes from the fear of like what people think of you. And I've had that fear before too. It comes from the fear of people seeing your flaws and exposing you. A lot of women with inferiority complexes, they have a fear of being seen, yet a desire to be seen at the same time. So I like to create a fantasy in my everyday life, even if it's something small, like wearing sparkly shoes. The rest of my outfit can be basic, but the sparkly shoes remind me I'm still a princess. Maintaining an air of class, flirting with your words, keeping the past in the past, and knowing how to move on. All of those things are an aspect of divine feminine privilege. Because remember, femininity, it goes deeper than just looks. It's not just looks or how you interact with men. Showing appreciation, encouraging other people's passions, being encouraging and uplifting, nurturing the positive qualities in others. Do you have a daughter? Do you encourage your daughter? Do you encourage your sisters? Or your friends? That's a part of feminine privilege. Being that nurturing, good friend. Earlier in this video, I talked about how I have been gifted things like a BMW, a MacBook, diamonds, gold. The way that I receive those gifts is because that's how good of a friend I am. I'm respectful towards my friends. I'm encouraging towards my friends or the people that I come into contact with. I like to carry myself with a certain level of class. And by the way, you can be fun too and still be feminine. You can have your little moments of being ratchet or urban or, you know, being a bad girl and still be feminine. Because remember, femininity is not a monolith. But when it comes to receiving and receiving gifts, that's something you can keep in mind. Always be a good friend. And then if they're not a good friend to you, you just cut them off and move on. Create the reputation for yourself that you've always wanted. Privilege is based on reputation. Stereotypes are basically just the reputation of that particular group. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.